Good morning, all. Just hang tight as I reach some board members. I know Mr. Walker, due to the time change, he is unable to make it, but the rest should be here shortly.
Thank you very much.
Apologies, technical difficulties. They will be joining. Phil is actually going to be chairing. So give one more second.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everyone doing? I apologize for being late.
Good morning.
We're well. Good morning.
Morning, good morning. So Christina, who do we have from the board online?
We had Board Member Johnson, but he is not responding this morning. And I know Board Member Walker, due to his work schedule, he can't join. And Board Member Brody also had something else scheduled, but she said she would try, but as of now, no, nothing.
So what is I guess a best practice here? I know we have a couple of contract approvals, um, updates around school choice and so forth. I just want to make sure that we're getting
Oh, sorry, we have Board Member Johnson joining.
okay.
So that's to yeah, best practice, especially since it is recorded and I send it to the board members for review before the board meeting. I'll take your lead, but I think we should proceed in particular because we review these before the regular meeting and we have the folks on the line.
Okay. Board Member Johnson, do you have any concerns? So right now it's just the two of us. Um, and we do have our partners here on the line. Do you have any concerns of moving this conversation, this committee discussion conversation forward with just the two of us representing the board, recognizing that Ms. Santiago will provide the full board a recording of this committee meeting?
Good morning, everyone. My apologies. Just coming from a prayer breakfast that started at like 6 a.m. So I'm just walking out of there. I mean, personally, I do not have a issue moving the conversation forward. However, I'm sure as our
I think we lost you, Reverend Johnson.
we do. Am I breaking in and out?
You're back.
All right. In the event that we do move this forward, just know that there will be other board members with questions that may come out of public spaces and requests that may come out of public spaces. So I don't want anyone to feel off guard or, feel any kind of way if questions and requests come out of nowhere in the fourth quarter from my other colleagues. And I just want to keep it real and so forth and so on. So if we do move this conversation forward, which I don't have an issue to do so, just also be aware that my other colleagues who are not a part of this conversation, may come asking for information at a later time that may not provide the most value and time to get it done. So I just want to make that clear and make that very, 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 very obvious. So to your question, I don't mind.
Thank you. That was a very precise and comprehensive explanation. So with that being said, I will call to order Thursday, November 9th, Family and Community Engagement Committee. To echo again, Board Member Johnson, for those that are here on the call, to the extent that you're actually able to attend our next board meeting in person, I strongly recommend that. Again, as he mentioned, there might be some questions here, some questions there that are not discussed here today. So with that being said, Christina, if you can, please bring up the agenda. And I believe the first item is item 1.01, contract approval, extended school hours.
So we do have Joanne Tremblay Jackson, who I don't see on the call, and I am also messaging her and emailing her. I don't know, Chief David Scrooge, if you feel comfortable. If not, we'll wait. We'll move extended 2 hours first to give her time to join.
If
No, I'm not.
I would, if she's not on and she's the main person, then I would recommend we skip that and go to the next
Okay.
agenda item.
So that would be the extended school hours.
Yep, so we'll circle back with this extended school hours. I believe the next agenda item is item 1.02, contract approval, Urban League of Greater Hartford.
Actually, the opposite. So yes.
What? Excuse me?
So Urban League is, well, the Joanne Tremblay Jackson is not here, so we're gonna move forward with 1.02 extended school hours first. If that,
Yes,
sorry.
yes, that's what we're moving to item 1.2, and we're going to circle back to item 1.01
Yes.
after the discussion. Yes.
Okay, and Chief Blackberg and Ms. Janelle Hooker on the line.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And just so for the viewing audience, 1.01 is a separate grant for the Urban League and not attached to the extended school hours contracts. I just want to make sure that is crystal clear for everyone. So each year, the State Department of Education in Connecticut does allot monies through the extended school hours grant. And as a district, we facilitate an RFP process for that extended school hours grant. And that is done in collaboration through the City of Office Procurement Office. So at this time, I'm going to tag in Ms. Hooker, who will take us forward with the extended school hours contracts that are being proposed for school year 23-24. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Janelle Hooker. I'm the Community Schools Manager for the district. And as Chief Blackberg shared, we will be having an overview of the extended school hours contract. Christina, next slide. So in conformity with our priority 3, which is engaging family and community partners, we wanted to do the extension of the RFP process, utilizing, Christina, next slide, utilizing Connecticut State Department of Education funds for extended school hours. This is something that happens on an annual basis. The funds are under the Alliance Priority School District, who provide extended school hours for academic enrichment support and recreation programs during non-school hours. There is the Section 213 in the Public Act. Christina, next slide. So for the extended school hours, I would like to note that we did have a reduction in funding. So for school year 22-23, we had $315,579, and for school year 23-24, the amount of money that we had to allocate were $272,000. Due to the reduction in funding, we are proposing, or we are allocating up to $50,000 per vendors who went through the RFP process on the extended school hours grant opportunity.
Ms. Hooker, if we can just go back to the prior slide, just want to just add a little bit more context. The reduction of funds is not a piece that school districts can petition to say, I would like more, we received less. This is a piece that is directed by the State Department of Education. So each year they look at their pot of money and they chop it up based on the number of districts that need to receive funding. So next year, we very well could go back to even more than what we received in school year 22-23. So I just want to make sure that it's clear for the board that the funding amount is not something that's driven by programmatic services or the number of participants. It is purely set by the State Department of Education.
Thank you, Chief Blackberg. The metrics that we're utilizing, or that we will be reviewing for school year 23-24, are in the 3 categories. One is academic enrichment. We will be looking at 80% of students enrolled in programs demonstrate literacy and numeracy improvement. The next area would be attendance. We are looking for 100% of students enrolled in programs will meet at least a 75% school attendance standard. And the final metric area would be parental involvement, where we're looking for parents of at least 60% of students enrolled in programs to demonstrate an increase in their involvement via PTO, SGC, school activities, parent-teaching conferences. We had a total of 17 vendors who submitted an application via the RFP process. And out of the 17 vendors who submitted for the RFP process, we had, based on the scoring that our pre-selection committee provided, we would be looking at a total of 5 providers who would be able to utilize the extended school hours funds for a total of 9 schools and to support services for a total of 625 students. Next slide. Now we're going to go into extended school hours awardees that, based on the amount of money that would be allocated, would need to come for the board for approval. The first one that we are reviewing is Catholic Charities, who is applying to provide extended school hours activities and opportunities at 3 schools, which would be McDonough, Milner, and Parkville, where they would have separate metrics, one for their middle school services and one for their elementary school services. But with the allotted money that we're looking for approval, they would be able to serve a total of 300 students across the 3 schools, and they would provide academic enrichment. They would provide supported in STEM, tutorial and homework help, as well as academic intervention in reading and strengthening parental involvement in education for children. And then the second organization or vendor that is also needs consideration here at the board as an extended school hour awardee would be the Village, who is also looking to provide services to 3 schools, which would be Rawson Elementary School, Sand School, and MD Fox, who also would be looking at an amount of a similar amount of money as Catholic Charities, and they would be providing services to 250 students across 3 schools to provide academic enrichment in math and ELA, have a focus on the increase in student of perception of caring adults, increase their average daily attendance, and decrease suspension and increase family engagement.
Quick question. I'm not sure if we're gonna want to pause here, but I do have a question. A couple slides back, you had some metrics around, I guess, attendance 75%.
Attendance. Yep.
And then teacher involvement at 60%.
Parents
Parents involvement at 60%. Can you just talk to me? How did we, like, the methodology that we use to come to those numbers? And then I think some folks here know me well enough. I'm going to ask, could we do more, right? Like, could attendance be 80%, parents 70%, and if so, what would that require?
We could.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Ms. Hooker. To the question, again, this is based on what is submitted through the RFP by the provider. So I know that we do have the providers on the line. So if, I'm trying to say who, the Village, I think it's the Village, yes. Okay, so Mr. Allen, I don't know if you'd like to speak to that in regards to the determination of the number of students and families, and then coming back to the metric.
Okay. So yeah, so it's as we look at how we approach our performance, our enrollment and our performance, we try to establish sort of two balances. One, there is a state and sort of national standard set by the State Department of Ed and also the Fed, where they look at 60% being the standard for 21st century programs to have government funds. We go over and above that, as you see typically in Hartford. We do our best to go above that. And the reason why the numbers why they stay where they are is typically because we will typically outperform the numbers, but we don't want to set a bar so high that we risk not being in compliance. So while we're above the state and national standard, and we typically go beyond it, we were very careful in that we don't want to create a expectation that goes beyond our capacity, and therefore be under or be out of compliance. So it's a sort of critical point for our agency, our reputation, and the way sort of we deliver services. But again, it is 20 points beyond the state and federal standard.
So what I very much appreciate the fact that you're pushing the envelope. I think that is actually a critical talking point. Again, when this is brought to the board, whoever is presenting this, I think is mission critical that talk track that Mr. Allen just communicated is spiked out.
Thank you, Mr. Allen, for providing that clarification. And thank you, board member, for bringing that up, as you're absolutely correct. It's an important piece to have part of the presentation. Did that answer your question?
It did. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we will continue to utilize our tracking mechanisms for our extended school hours around ensuring that we're following the community school standards as a benchmark, as well as reviewing that 75% attendance rate for our individuals that are participating in the extended day program during the day and after, right, for the enrichment. And we will be utilizing the data system Transact to allow our vendors and providers to record the efforts and information that they're providing to our students, and for us here at the district to be able to have checks and balances on what is happening on the ground. Next slide. And that will conclude my presentations. Not sure if there's any additional questions that any other board member may have.
Yeah, the thing in the community that I hear most is that we want our schools open, right? That's kind of like the stump speech that I get as a board member. If you've been in a community long enough and you've talked to people, they'll always go back to some like magical time in history where the schools will always be open and we had some place to go, right? And I'm just trying to figure out, I understand we've had a 25% reduction, but we've been working on this. And, where is the disconnect between, the magical time in Hartford history where schools used to be open and what we're attempting to achieve and get done now? Where is the gap and breakdown? Why are those folks not convinced that this system is not doing that right now? Can anyone just provide any insight? Because again, that's the thing.
Yeah, board member Johnson, let me tackle that, and I think this is a much broader conversation. What I would tell you is, I think we all want schools open, and schools are very much a central part of the community. What I will tell you is, in order for schools to remain open, you need staff, you need security, you need guards, and those are by and large um, a byproduct of CBA that we have in place. I don't want to talk out of turn here, but I will tell you that if there is a way for us to keep schools open that doesn't um, hinder our budget, which is already a very delicate situation, we could certainly explore it. I think part of this is also uh, us as a board educating the community what that entails to have schools open. Is that as simply, hey, you open the door, you turn the lights on. There's a lot more to it than just that.
Okay.
Does that help?
No, yeah, I certainly understand. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I would also like to add one of the pieces is that as we move forward, I think we all sort of realize the sort of societal realities that we're facing budgetarily across the board, and that's a large piece, right? When we look at how we do work and what we have done in the past, we can look at um, who are the partners and what their commitments were, right? As far as Hartford Public Schools, and again, you all have done a magnificent job in terms of as all the resources are shrinking, you all have found ways to sort of solidify and continue to bring these things to the table to allow for these sorts of services. The piece I'd like to say is that we should revisit some of our old partnerships and some of the relationships that we had that were able to, in a sophisticated way. And that's the piece that's happening now. Funding has changed. The way funders approach the work, how they allow for the work to be delivered, it's changed significantly. And it requires a greater connection than in years past, where they sort of dole out money in sort of different ways. Now they require heavier and more intensive relationships, and that's something that the district has to consider, because these pieces are burdensome for year end. I mean, I'm not sure what they look like and what they entail, but what funders wanted, they want to have in-depth, direct conversation so they can ask the questions that you all are asking about, why not a higher percentage? Why not sort of being open more? How are they truly improving those performance standards that we have? And it's no longer just a conversation around, hey, we're going to fund sort of these disconnected activities. They want to see some sort of symphony. They want to see something that comes together, and that both the Hartford Public Schools, the school's principals, the agency CEOs, the agency program leads, that they're working in unison at their level, having multiple conversations about how this piece gets done, because it's very easy to become disjointed. And I think as we look across the sort of national grid, we've seen where money has been poured into different endeavors, well-intended, but that lack of continuity, that leadership level, as well as the implementation level, creates outcomes that no one's proud of. And I think as their portfolios shrink, as people are giving to them to then give to others, they are held to a higher standard, which in turn asks us, because at one point, Hartford was the premier community school entity in the nation, not long ago, right? And what happened is there were specific conversations that were happening at levels that made it happen, that made us an excellent sort of delivery. And we were sort of trending. As those pieces sort of fell apart, they're being held together, but you can sort of imagine it's something unzipping. It's being held together at lower levels. We need to sort of close it back up at the top and get the sort of system that we're looking for, because it is fraying. And to be quite honest, one of the pieces we all struggle with is that our teams on the ground, they aren't fueled by finances. They don't get a lot of money, right? That's just not a money game. We all know it. What they're fueled by is success. And as we're looking and struggling with the attrition that's happening on a staffing level, it's because they don't see progress. It's not that their money is so bad and so they're so far behind. It's that they aren't seeing the difference that they're making. So the nobleness of the profession, the sacrifice that they would typically make, it's drying up. So I'm glad to hear the question. I would love to continue to have conversations about it. And literally, look back and see some of the things that work. And again, I had a pitfall. There were no glory days. I mean, don't get me wrong. But I go back at some of the best practices, because what's happening is, as they're not seeing this hope. I mean, I saw a comedian the other day. He said, "Hey, listen, raise your hand if you're over 30." And he says, "Hey, listen, you remember that song, I Believe the Children of the Future? What do you say now?" Right? And it's comedy, but it's also a deep cut, because these children are the staff that we have now, and they are believing that there is this peace. But as we sort of sit and we're having conversations around professional development, we're doing a lot of pieces around inspiration and soft skill building, because their levels of frustration are beginning to show through because they're not seeing the gain. So I spoke too long. I apologize, but it's just it's a real point in that we do have to find a way to creatively, because newer resources probably aren't going to be there. So we have to find a way to fine tune what we have. And there's some phrase in our fabric that we need to go back and address.
Mr. Allen, I appreciate those comments. And I think your perspective is certainly welcome. And as I mentioned, and I think to Board Member Johnson's question, I'm all in favor of figuring out ways to, at the end of the day, do right by our kids, by our teachers, and by our families and community. So I would tell you personally, as the chair, I'm happy to have that conversation with whichever party needs to be at the table to start having those discussions. And I say that in the spirit of what has worked in the past will not work in the future for our kids, right? And I've said this to the superintendent, and I'm sure others have heard me say this. Like we need leapfrog strategies, right? I don't want strategies that keep us on par or average or at national trends or regional trends. We need strategies that truly leapfrog and provides an opportunity for our community. Because I could tell you, in my international travels, the competition is fierce. So I digress. But I guess Board Member Johnson, do you have any other questions as it relates to item 1.02, Urban League of Greater Hartford?
No, I just meet you in your sentiment that, let's ask the question, what can we do more? And I certainly understand everything that was said, and I appreciate that just kind of background and overview. Because again, that's a question that I'm hit with, but no further questions.
I do have a question, I guess, for Christina and Chief Blackburn. Is that the right language for this item? Contract approval, Urban League of Greater Hartford, or?
So I will defer to Ms. Santiago, Chairman Rigger, because I'm not sure. So I will defer to Ms. Santiago, because it's not a piece that's being directed by the Office of Family and Community Partnerships. So I'm not really sure.
So no, we're on item 1.02 right now, the extended school hours. And let me share my screen real quick.
All right, so I'm sorry, Christine. I'm looking at the handout that you gave me, and I have
the village
backwards.
Yeah.
No, I have 1.1 contract approval extended hours, and then 1.2 contract approval Urban League.
Okay. So
and that I was responding to the latter part of your question, because I understood what you were asking, Chairman Rigger, that the contract approval for Urban League, the extended school hours is germane to this office, but the contract approval for the Urban League, again, I'll defer to Christina.
So what we normally do, yes, we do a contract extended school hours, and then we lay out underneath it the village, which are the only two, because remember, it's an RFP and they had 17 respondents, and they're not
That's not the question, Christina. That's not what the chairman was asking. He was sharing that on his documentation, they're flipped, and I'm trying to make sure that he is clear. The Urban League is not attached to the extended school hours.
So go by the screen share then. That's correct.
Okay. Well, I'm in transit, so that's
okay. Understood.
Okay. So the conversation that we just had is, just for clarity and for public consumption, is item 1.02, extended school hours. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
That
what
is
we
correct.
talked about. Mhm,
Okay.
That
correct.
is correct.
Got it. Okay. Are there any other further questions or comments around item 1.2, extended school hours? Okay, seeing none, we will now go back to items 1.01, Urban League of Greater Hartford. Do we have the appropriate individuals?
We actually have. Yes, we have Jen Hoffman and we have Miss Elizabeth Nieves on the call, and I will let them introduce themselves and screen share the form so we can walk through.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jen Hoffman, Assistant Superintendent for Special Education for the district. And I have Elizabeth Nieves with us as well, and she will walk through the talking points for the SPPT grant.
Good morning, everybody. So the purpose of the grant is to basically work with our pregnant and parenting teams throughout the District of Hartford. It's to really support our students, our young parents, and providing health education and parenting, and actually supporting them with respect to completing their senior years and graduating years, whether it's 9 to 10, 10 to 11th. It's also to help them to provide supports, not just within the building, but within the community as well. Jen, can you go down a little bit? So some of the monies we utilize is for baby cribs. We do a lot of conversations around like safe sleep with our students and making sure that they're parenting appropriately to their young babies. So we provide them with pack and plays, and some of the monies is being utilized for that. We also are going to be extending our services to doing cooking demos for our young parents to make sure that they're eating healthy and feeding their children healthy as well. Our objectives are really to work with prenatal care, postpartum care, parenting skills, life skills, helping our young people to be able to monitor the community and services like childcare services that they need out in the community. So that's part of, and also connecting with their prenatal care and postnatal care services. So making sure that they're going to the doctors, making sure that their babies are going to the doctors, and also referring to community agencies such as Urban League, Crackhead Start, Catholic Charities. I know that we're currently working with the Fatherhood Program, trying to see if we can get a group of dads started over at Weaver High School. So it's we also have an advisory committee, which we have just recently developed, that entails agencies such as ROCA, WIC services, CREC, New Beginnings for childcare resources for our students, MIAP with the City of Hartford. All of these people are sitting around one table to be able to offer our young people services that they need. Last year, we were supposed to service 50 students throughout the year. We actually serviced 54 students. 24 of those were seniors, and we actually graduated 18 of those. And we also do post-education planning. So that's another thing that we sit with our students and do. We do individual sessions, we do group sessions, and all of it is to teach them high quality parenting and the importance of education and being able to maneuver. Jen, can you go down a little bit? Thank you. So we also do annual reporting, and we talk about all of those points, whether it's case management that we've offered them or whether it's one-on-one sessions that we've offered them. You know, the mission of Hartford Public Schools is to work with the whole student, right? And so our SPPT program, our whole student includes a baby. So we do generational work, right? So it's not just with our student, it's with their parent and then that child. So it's actually building a whole community and working to keep them feeling safe, right? And making sure that they get the resources that they need. Okay, thank you. So some of the monies is being spent, yes, on like pack and plays and diaper bags. One of the things that we find with our students is safe sleep, again, is one of the, there's a lot of risk in that, right? So with the Department of Children and Families, we also educate our students with respect to what abuse and neglect is, right? Hoping that we will keep this generation from entering DCF services, or, and if they are, we advocate for our students regarding the Department of Children and Families, just educating them on their rights and supporting them through the process. It's very stressful for some of our students. So on the preventive side, we give them the education, hoping that they don't end up with a case with the Department of Children and Families. But if they do, then we're also advocating on their behalf to make sure that they are doing the services that the department is recommending. So talking about safe sleep is important, right? Having a safe sleeping environment. Some of our students, they have two households, right? Mom's household, dad's household. So we ensure that they're getting pack and plays for both of those areas to make sure that their children are safe. Car seats is another thing. We're looking to see if we can partner with CCMC so that we can do a car seat clinic, so that our parents actually will know how to install these car seats correctly into vehicles, both for mom and dad. Another thing that we're looking at also is potentially using some of our monies to contract out to a driving ed program, right? Reason being is, part of our program, we focused on life skills. So it's when you graduate, what are you doing next? It's post-graduation, but it's also life skills planning. So trying to see if we can get our young parents to obtain their driver's permit and their driver's license, right? Setting them up kind of for success. So when they do graduate, they're able to get around to medical appointments and to do everything that it is that they're required to do as young adults. So yeah, I'm the social worker for the program. I've been with the district for 3 years and working with SPPT for 3 years. And okay. Oh yeah, so we also talked to Urban League about the cooking classes. I think I already mentioned that, but all in all, I see the success that this program has had on our young people and our families, not just in the school building. We also offer home visits, so we go out to the homes if we need to do that. We actually talk to providers, and we kind of triage cases, right? Like every child has, every young parent has their own need, and their children do too. We also have a nurse on staff that if we have any young babies with medical issues, our students are able to access a nurse to ask medical questions and get answers and guidance as needed. So I think that's what I have for everybody.
Awesome, Ms. Nivas. Thank you for that. I have a couple of questions. And again, mostly for public consumption, since this is being recorded. The first question I have, and again, I apologize, I'm in transit. What is the contract amount? And then more importantly, how much of the contract is actually being allocated for equipment, right? You mentioned pack and plays, strollers, and things along those lines, car seats. That's one. And then I guess part B of that, or a subset of that, you mentioned Connecticut Children's, looking to do some partnership with them. As you probably are aware, Dr. Jish Merling is a board member. So anything dealing with Connecticut Children, I'm sure he will put you in contact with the right person to make that happen.
That's amazing. Thank you. So as you can see on the screen there, it's kind of broken down with regards to the cost of things. And our goal is to service 50 students throughout the year. So initially thinking about not every student is going to need pack and play. So and diaper bags is for everyone, as our car seats, right? Because that's something that's going to be needed. So the budget is actually broken down there. I'm sorry, I don't know exact numbers. I don't know, Jen, if you know exact numbers, but.
Christina, can you scroll up? I think it's the overall grant is $90,000 that we received for the grant.
Got it. So I just think, so what I would recommend is, as we head to the board meeting, just have an idea of that 90,000, how much of that is going directly, what I would call tangible items, right? Pack and place and so forth. And then the other question I have, again, for public consumption, can you just talk about the role that Urban League plays here? It's probably captured on the document, but I think it'd be good if you could just talk about that very quickly.
Yeah, so Urban League's actually offering the SPPT program participants, wraparound services, obviously, with all of the services that they offer throughout in their organization. But on top of that, they are the ones that are going to be collaborating with us. They're our fiduciaries, so they're actually the ones that are going to be doing the purchasing and the storing of all the equipment that we are going to be purchasing for our families. So the referral process, right? Like if a student needs something, they would go through the Urban League. We would contact them and the student would go or it would be facilitated, right? So we talked about them potentially bringing items out to our students. Also the demo cooking classes is something also that the Urban League is going to offer. They also offer parenting support. So that's also something that they're going to be offering as well. So education, and they're also part of our advisory committee. So they sit with us on a monthly basis to have conversations regarding like any needs that our students have.
Thank you. You also mentioned driver's ed. And I guess this is a more of a, I would say maybe a watch out for the various chiefs on the call. So I know driver's ed has come up before in the past with another student advocacy group. So if we're trying to figure out a path for teen parents in driver's ed, again, I would caution you to make sure that, or at least know that driver's ed might come up again in a broader context, and you can certainly share that with the superintendent. I personally think it's a good thing, but I also want to be mindful that this has come up before in the past, and just want to make sure that we're prepared to answer that question if it comes up again.
Yeah, that's on like early stages. Conversations that are being had about what that all could look like. So definitely, we will definitely keep that in mind. Thank you.
Yep. Board Member Johnson, do you have any questions?
Yeah. I appreciate the work that you all are doing, and I think it's very important. I think I have two questions. Can you just remind me of your age demographic that you're working with in this particular program? What is the scope of ages?
Sure. Currently, our students range from 13 years old all the way through 20. So that's what I'm servicing this year. But in the past, the oldest student I had was 20 years old. Yeah, so 13 to 20. In order to participate in the program, there's not like a quote unquote age requirement, right? Because they're referred to SPPT if someone in the school or even students refer other students, right? If we're aware that either they've already had a child or are pregnant. So we will service any age student.
I appreciate that. And what's the rate, teen pregnancy rate as you see it? The teen pregnancy rate. I know my church has been dealing with that issue for some time, and there was a moment where teen pregnancy had gone down, and I'm just unaware of, what it looks like now. So, from your perspective, from 13 to 20, what are the rates? Are they growing? Or are they slowing down? How's it looking?
So I think they are definitely growing, right? Like and we actually had our program aims to prevent, right, further pregnancy. So we have conversations around like, keeping yourself safe and making, educated decisions and things like that. But we had, I think in the 3 years, we only had 2 students that actually ended up parenting again. But I know with the city of Hartford and just with this program in general, not just, it's the state of Connecticut, right? Not just Hartford, actually SPPT has 5 other sites. And so everyone's, it's unfortunate to say, but teen pregnancy is not going away anytime soon. Right. And so our goal is to, one, yes, educate, but yeah, I think that I don't know the exact numbers for the state of Connecticut, and I apologize for that. But yes, they're definitely, going up. And, these are our teenagers have been, post-COVID, right? Like, been disconnected from like community, family, and even relationships. And so I think that's all part of it. But yeah, we're here to support and as best we can so that they're not having multiple pregnancies.
Final bonus question. In conversations with, young women around the ages of like 18 to 20 and like kind of that mid-20 group, there's been some conversation just around workforce development and trying to, get jobs that are sustainable, that, lead to a career. And I'm not saying that Urban League should, say all and do all, but in your programming, do you see, or have you had conversations with workforce development to sustain and to prepare young people for the workforce to get and sustain careers, even with the pre-existing situations that we just mentioned?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with Urban League and even outside in the community, right? Like many of the conversations that I have with our seniors and even juniors, what is your plan? What is your post-graduation plan? And, some of them will say to me like, oh, Ms. Nieves, I want to work. And I'm like, no, like, let's talk about something else, right? Like work is good, but like a career, right? Like, have you explored? So that's definitely something that Urban League will be able to support with. But even with our program, like I look into them applying for places like Job Corps, right? Where they have like training programs that they can get certified and then get job placement as well. We had a couple of our students who got full scholarships to go to college with 3-month-old babies, right? Like, so college, post-graduation planning, trainings, it's all discussed, and we encourage our students, and I will help them look for resources. So yes, Urban League is just one point of reference, but we also are utilizing services available in the community to be able to outsource the students that potentially Urban League can't service, or for whatever reason, it's not a fit, right? Like we give them a broad spectrum to kind of choose from. But yes, I totally agree with you. It's something that's really important because our young parents are actually the example for their babies, right? And so one thing I can say is, statistically speaking, teen parents are a lot less likely to graduate, let alone go to college. So I talk about those statistics with every one of our young parents so that they can understand that they don't need to fit that mold and that statistic, that they can go to college, that they can be productive, that they can have their own apartment, that they can have their own vehicle. Financial literacy is also something that I do within my sessions as well. So yes, it's something that it's in the forefront, because as a social worker for this particular program, I want our young people to be productive members of society, but also to be successful and to know that they can set goals and actually attain those. So that's something that we definitely work on with our students.
Thank you so much. No more. I don't have any more questions, Chairman Reagan.
Thank you, Board Member Johnson. Seeing no other questions, is there anything else that you would like to share with the committee as it relates to this particular agenda item?
Thank you.
Okay. So again, that concludes items 1 or section 1. The 2 contract approvals, they will move forward. As I stated before, and as Mr. Johnson reminded us, there might be some questions from other board members that were not posed here, and to the extent that folks that were on the call to be present during our next meeting, which I believe is the 21st, would be greatly appreciated. With that being said, and Christina, please keep me honest, I have here section 2 updates. Item 2.01, school choice, facilities, transportation, food service and technology.
Yes, that is correct. And on the call, we have Chief Davis Gooch.
Good morning,
Awesome.
everyone. Today our updates will focus on school choice and transportation. I have with me Kayla Palace, who is our Assistant Director in the Office of Enrollment and School Choice. She will be providing an overview on important dates for school choice as it is around the corner. And also I have with me Bill Mason, who will be demoing Where's the Bus, which is an application that will be available to our school community, including families, to track the location of buses in real time. So turning it over to you, Kayla.
Sure. Thank you. Good
I'm
morning,
sorry,
everyone.
Caleb, before you start, Chief Davis Gooch, this is probably a question for Christina. I know that this app or the tracking the buses has been a topic of the board in the past. Do we plan on presenting this app at the regular meeting?
No, this is informational, correct?
Yep, it was informational. But we can certainly prepare something to share with our board members.
Even if it's just screenshots or the, like, I just know that this was a topic of conversation in the past. I just want to make sure that board members feel as though that their questions or inquiries are being addressed, which clearly I know your team is doing. But I don't want to lose sight of that.
Absolutely. Yep.
I'll let you and Christina figure out the best way to do that. And I apologize, Caleb. Please, you have the floor.
Not at all. Thank you so much. So we wanted to share the dates for the school year 24-25. So next school year, right? The application deadlines and timelines for folks that are interested in applying. So the Regional School Choice Office supports magnet schools, open choice, and 3 Connecticut technical schools within the Chef region. And the on-time application opens up December 4th, and that runs through March 15th. To coincide with the opening of the lottery, there is also a winter Regional School Choice Fair on Saturday, December 9th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Academy of Aerospace and Engineering, and that's in Windsor. Folks can sign up by going to chooseyourschool.org if they want to pre-register, or families are also welcome to arrive on site that day and sign up and attend the school fair. All of our Hartford Magnet schools and open choice schools will have tables and have information to share with families who may be interested in coming out to their school to see the facility, get a tour, shadowing opportunities. So that's a good opportunity for families who are trying to engage in the process and consider all of the school options that exist within Hartford and beyond. In terms of the HPS school placement process, our lottery will open up on January 8th and it will run through April 5th. And we will also have a wealth of materials that we're working on now to share with the community. We have some information going to school counselors here in the next couple of weeks with updated information that can be shared. And then our team in January is hosting a variety of application assistance sessions. So for families that are in a transitional grade, either 5th transitioning to 6th or 8th transitioning to 9th, I would encourage that you reach out to your school or your school counselor to figure out what those dates are so that families can kind of mark that in their calendar, save the date. So we will be supporting for both application processes for families that are interested in applying to both. That is the school choice lottery update for today.
Thank you, Kayla. And please know that we just wanted to share the dates here as the season will open up December 4th, and we just wanted to share those dates before our next meeting. We will also be putting this out on our website and all of places where it'll be easily accessible to our families. I also wanted to share that we will continue to bring updates to this committee as we move through the choice season. We actually had a great meeting with our marketing and recruiting vendor last week, Adams and Knight. And so we are truly excited to move forward. In our next meeting, we'll be sharing an overview of our plan as well as the metrics that will monitor the work. We talked about application counts, Suburban and Hartford. We talked about retention and attrition in our schools, how do we measure awareness of Hartford Public Schools? Obviously, we'll be doing some social media tracking. So we will again be back in December to talk more about the overall plan. Chairman Ricker, I see your hand.
Sorry about that. I was trying to find the mute button. What I would say is, and I'm glad that you talked about metrics. As you know, Chief Davis Loops, I'm very big into metrics. To the extent that you're able to do a year-over-year comparison, particularly around with our marketing partners, I think will be super helpful for the board.
Understood. And if there's no more questions around the choice season, we can move to our transportation update with Bill Mason.
Yep.
Okay. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, everyone. So today I just wanted to talk about and show an example of our new bus app. Our app is probably about 3 to 4 weeks away from going live now. We had a lot of work to do, adding a new GPS system to the buses and then setting up the whole program. So it's taken a while, but we're just about there. And I can show some real examples today. And I also have an example that Christina is going to play a video for me of what one of the schools outside that one of the schools in another state was using as their example of how they send information to the parents. And we're going to kind of replicate that here with the communications department. So Christina, if you could play that would be good.
Christina, as you're teeing that up, I was just thinking about my previous question. I think what's probably most appropriate is if we could get this video and whatever deck or screenshot that we have, and maybe just send out a separate email to the board with just with this update. I don't think we have to present it at the board meeting.
Okay.
Let me know if you cannot hear.
Hello there, everybody. Here to walk you through how to navigate and use the Where's the Bus app. First thing you're going to want to do is download the app from your app store. It is free and you can find it. It will look like the logo that you see right here on the right hand side of your screen. So download the app, and then once you open it, you're going to click Create Account. From the drop-down menu that says Select District, you're going to select Lee County Schools, and you're going to hit Continue, and then you'll click on Add Student. Type in your child's last name and his or her student ID, then hit Save. Here you can see the school bus number and pickup and drop-off times, as well as the child's school. If you have another child who rides the bus, you can add them by clicking Add Student below. Once you do all that, you click Continue. Next, you'll enter your information. So you'll put your first and last name, your email address, you'll create a password, and then make sure you click the box agreeing to the terms of use, and then hit Sign Up. Once you sign in, it'll take you to an interactive map where you'll see your home on the map, as well as the child's school and their bus. It will show you the real-time location of the bus. This is the primary reason for using the app. You can open it up and in real time track the exact location of their school bus. If you click down here in the lower right, these 3 black lines, that'll take you to a menu where you can adjust your account settings, turn on or off notifications, frequently asked questions, and an email where you can send questions for support. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you for watching. Have a great school year.
Thank you, Christina. So that's an example of how you go into signing up for the bus. The only difference for us is we're going to use the student's birthday and their student ID number as the gatekeeper for all the students on the bus. When we do send out the information to the parents, we'll be using Parent Square and send it only to students that already have a school bus. And then we'll also be posting it on the website as it was just asked. And I think that's about it to get the information out. When we had our app before, back in 2019, it worked off of radiuses where it was like circles around a bus stop. And once a bus hit that circle, it would say it's, half a mile away. It never gave times. So the example that I want to give and show is I took bus 8 from Capital Prep this morning and I tracked it going to Franklin and Barker Street. And I made my address as the corner of Franklin and Barker, and then I made the bus stop. Well, I use a real bus stop, Franklin and Barker. So it was real time this morning. And if I could I share my screen, Christina?
Sorry, yes, couldn't find the mute. Yes, you can.
Yep. Can everybody see it?
Not yet.
Okay. How about now?
Okay, here it comes. Yes.
Okay. So here is the bus is 12 minutes away right now from the bus stop from Franklin and Barker. So this is what you would look at if you just went on and started looking at it. This is bus 8 Capital Prep this morning, and it's 12 minutes out. So I'm going to move it along. So or else we're going to be sitting here a long time, to about, where am I going to go? I'll go to like right here, and the bus will move down to, I have it about 2 minutes away from the bus stop now. It's 0.8 miles. And at 2 minutes, it'll start saying approaching. So now it's approaching the stop. And I'm just going to let it run for a couple minutes here. It'll take about 2 minutes to get to the stop from here. You'll see the time change and the ETA will appear where it says approaching. It'll say 2 minutes. It'll be coming up now.
Excuse me, Bill, are you able to increase the size by using the block on the?
Is that
There we
better?
go.
There.
Yep, thank you.
So here we'll see it's at point, I moved it along just so we could keep going. And so it's at 0.7 of a mile. It's 2 minutes out from the bus stop. And I'll move it out to, where am I going to go here? To 33. So here we'll be getting close to stop. So it zooms in on its own. So you can see it's starting to zoom in and you can see it getting closer. It's half a mile away. It goes back to approaching the stop here, saying that it's approaching because it's under a minute, and it zooms in. I didn't do that. It does it itself. It's showing you that it's 4 blocks away from the bus stop. And here it'll be at the stop. So at the top, instead of an ETA, it'll say at the stop. Like I said, just for time, I just moved it along, or else we'd be watching it the whole time. Here's when it's, sitting at the bus stop. And then after it's at the stop, it'll say past the stop once it leaves. It sat at this stop for about 22 seconds today, and then it moved on, and it says at the top now past the stop. So that means that if you were waiting for the bus for that stop and you didn't get there, you missed a stop, and it'll keep going, and the past stop will start having time that has been away and mileage that has been away. So the whole time, this is a running time. You see the bus moving down your phone the whole time. It'll be going from, like, say 2 miles to 2.5, whatever it is, it's going down the whole time, and you can see everything real time, just like you would with an Uber and the regular Uber app that shows like your Uber coming to your house or wherever you are.
Bill, thank you so much. Sorry, I have to do a time check because we only have 15 minutes left and two other items. I don't know how much longer you have.
I'm only about a minute or two. So does anybody have any questions on how the app would look or work?
Bill, I'm going to just ask if just real quickly, can you talk about the report functioning in the app of how it will give us the on-time metrics?
Bill, sorry, I was on mute. Along those lines of Chief Davis Gooch, so this is super helpful for parents. My question, I guess, is somewhat tied to what Davis Gooch has said. To what extent do you or Chief Davis Gooch have a view of this from a dashboard perspective? So if a parent calls up Are you seeing the same thing with a particular bus? Let's just call it bus 89. Are you seeing the same thing as well?
So we will be seeing the same thing as well, and so will the schools. They'll have access to their school buses, and they'll be able to see them too. But what Ms. Davis-Goos was saying is that behind this whole program is every single bus stop. It runs off of Google. It runs off of Google Maps, and behind it is a 30-day running total of every bus stop and every school, the time that it arrives at the bus stop and the time that it arrives at school. So it has a program built in, so it knows every day of the approximate time. So when it starts out at the first stop, before it gets there, it knows approximately how long it's going to take to get there, and then to the next stop, and vice versa. And then the real time comes into it's showing, what it's actually taken. There's an accident, there's construction or whatnot. So it moves the time and it adjusts the time, but it has a built-in projected time as the original ETA, just like it does in your car if you're using CarPlay or one of those. And it does that coming down on the street. So we see that behind there too, which is great for us. So a parent says, hey, my bus is late every day, it's never at the stop. We'll have a 30-day running total of every bus stop every day, and we'll be able to see that. We'll be able to see all our on times of school. Hey, they're getting to our school late, they're getting to Webster late. We'll be able to look it up and see what time they actually got there, and the school will have access to that as well.
So if I heard correctly, there'll be some metrics, and within that metrics, if there are delays, you'll be able to catch, to a certain degree, nuances why there's delays.
Yeah, we'll be able to see. So we can tell, like, all right, this driver left from Sanchez late, so that's why they're getting to Fisher late. They're leaving Sanchez at 8:20, and they really need to be out of there between 8:10 and 8:15. So if they're leaving late, we'll be able to tell right from that why they're late, and be able to see what's causing the problems to each stop.
I'm sorry. So that part I get. I'm talking more. So you said it's Google Maps. For example, if there's an accident on the route or there's construction, are you able to capture that?
We are able to, yes.
Okay. Yep.
So
Thank you.
besides with this upgrade, so this is why things are taking so long for us to get this whole thing developed. We're also moving to our new platform for our transportation system. So we're upgrading to cloud-based and a new TransFinder. So we have TransFinder now, and we're just going up to one of their newer programs. And in that program, it has, like if roads are blocked for construction and stuff, because again, it's using Google Maps, it has that behind that. So our mapping software that the drivers get with their directional will have where roads are closed or roads are blocked with built into their directional that they have before they go on their trips.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Board Member Johnson,
really
yeah, this is awesome. Board Member Johnson, do you have any questions?
No questions. This is helpful, as this has been a concern that hasn't made it. I don't remember hearing it during public comment, but it has made it into conversations I have in the community about this issue. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
And again, I'll also give this link of what I just showed over to Christina too, so she can add that.
Yep. So again, Chief Davis-Goos, work with Christina, and I'm happy to lend a hand. I think this warrants just a email update to the board with the links and screenshots showing the great progress that the team has made.
Yep, thank you, will do.
All right.
Thanks.
That concludes our update.
Awesome, I appreciate it. Now moving to item 2.02, multilingual family supports.
Yep, and we have Chief Blackbrook on the line.
Well, good morning.
All right.
Again. Christina, are you sharing or thank you?
Sure. Well, hopefully it's spinning. Hold on. Oh, there we go.
All right. And so I do recognize that we are short on time, but last year we started having a conversation about how do we support families as it relates to their access to information. And what we determined was that definitely we could be doing more in the area of multilingual family support. So just wanted to provide just an overview, and you can move to the next slide, Christina, of what we have done. It's like a comprehensive piece as it relates to multilingual family supports in preparation for this school year. So the outcomes for us, we wanted to meet the needs for our students and families, provide a way for families and stakeholders to receive information, to communicate. Really doing that in real time. And also what we've heard very loud and clear from families through organizations like Madres Guerreras is that families want to be able to access information, they want to support their students, and there is a way that we can do it together, like, you know, in partnership. So we look to provide a overview of two particular pieces, the language line, as well as translating documents. So our outcomes, we really wanted to focus on implementation and partnership. You can go ahead, Christina. So just wanted to highlight for the board where we began. I'm not going to read the timeline to you, but this is where we began back in April of 2022. We had received some demands from an advocacy group. We had met with them. We did a field scan across the country of school districts that were similar to Hartford Public Schools, and really trying to determine, like, how can we be better? How can we put standard operating procedures together to ensure that we are providing our families with multilingual supports? Additionally, on the legislative front, there was a bill that was introduced called the English Language Learners Bill of Rights. That bill was introduced during the last legislative session. I know they had not had final determination on how that bill would live here in our state, but wanted to make reference to the board that this was also a part of our thinking as we were trying to determine how do we move forward with multilingual supports for families. This bill was also at the forefront in trying to determine how do we support our families in that endeavor. So where are we now? Just wanted to share that, yes, as a cabinet, we have met to discuss the supports. We did finalize an overall plan for multilingual support services. We've worked with the language lines. We have presented to the board before about the language line contract. So our overall contract was expanded, and the board graciously supported that work. And lastly, we worked with our Hartford Public School staff during the end of year professional learning, and also right at the beginning of the year through professional learning. And we rolled out a overhaul of our multilingual learner supports, which included updates to the language line and a repository of documents and forms that teachers as well as staff members can go in and pull those documents out to be able to send home to families in Spanish as well as in English. We had heard from families that documents were coming home just in English, and again, they weren't able to access what was happening for their students because they could not read what was being sent home, which was just in English. How we provide support. So 3 big ways that we are providing support is through our documents, our registration documents, discipline documents, special education. Those documents, those have been translated and families are able to receive that documentation in Spanish. We do recognize that we have some other languages that we have not been able to translate, but that can be done, you know, on an as needed basis. We, of course, use our phone translation service, which is the language line. If bilingual staff is available in a school building, of course, they continue to support families with interpretation, but we do have the translation service being provided by the language line. Every teacher, every staff person in the building, they have access to that information. We delivered materials to each and every school, so the information is easy to access. So it's not that our staff members are looking for the information, it's right at their fingertips. And in each of the main offices, there is signage to assist both families when they're coming in, as well as the individuals in the office on the translation services provided via the language line. We also worked to do in-person communications, translations for parent-teacher conferences. If someone is in need of having a in-person meeting, whether it's for an IEP or a PPT, we are also working with the language line as well as other organizations in the local area to provide that translation. Additionally, as you know, at our board meetings, if we're doing a family event, we offer translation services there on the ground for our families. This is a little bit of data as far as total number of calls from 2018 through 2023. As you can see that Spanish continues to be the language that is most utilized or requested through the language line, followed by Portuguese, Swahili, and then we have all the other languages referenced here. So as you can see that looking across 2018, it was growing, but definitely since the pandemic, there has been a greater need. And we've also shown here for 2003, where are we with the number of calls that have come in and have been addressed through the language line. I think I said 2003. Forgive me, y'all. I'm very tired. 2023. And this is just, again, a little bit about the language line. I know that you've seen this piece before as we presented on the language line when that contract was being renewed, but that just talks about who they are and what they do. Again, for our viewing audience, the language line conversations are not recorded. They are not recorded. I know that's come up before, but just wanted to make mention of that. And these are documents that have been sent out to the schools. So it's like a language ID card. I know it's very tiny, but Christina, I can also leave these with you and board members can actually see it. But this is the language ID card, the desktop display that's in our schools. So when families come in, you know, they're able to find their language and able to work with whomever is in the front office to assist them in accessing their, in accessing the language line. And I believe that's it, Christina. I know that was really fast, but I know we're running out of time.
Thank you, Chief Burke. Super helpful, very informative. I know that this has been a discussion in the past with the board, so kudos to you and team for lifting this and continuing to do the great work around here. Board Member Johnson, do you have any questions regarding multilingual family supports?
Not at all. Thank you.
Okay. I have no questions, but again, I do appreciate the work. This is critical for many of our families, so thank you again. Moving on to item or agenda section 3, reports. Item 3.01, end of the year Welcome Center report.
Thank you. And we do have Ms. Judith Fagan on the call.
Good morning, everyone. So the Welcome Center year-end report is basically a compilation of the monthly reports, data reports that we have shared with you. I wondered if you had a chance to look over the end of year report and if you had specific questions, or would you like me to review the entire report? I know we are pressed for time as well.
So I did take a quick glance at the report. I don't think we need to go through the full report. What I was, at least for me, is what are you seeing as kind of like the key trends or the potential watch outs as it relates to the data that you've captured?
So the trends are all over the place. It's based on what's happening in our community, and in terms of the numbers, post the pandemic, those numbers are going back to normal. We have seen an upward trend in our homeless population. Parents that we are registering under the McKinney-Vento Act. We also see in the first part of the report, in the highlights, I have outlined the top reasons and intakes that we have received, transportation, clothing, and the month of August is always or mostly the most reports that we received during the year, and other highlights regarding donations and so forth. So the trends are, we have seen maybe a little uptick in our safety transfers, and moving into this year, that that trend continues. But you see the graph in front of you, in comparison to last year, where those numbers are. Apart from that, the numbers are all over the place. All I can say is that in terms of complaints, concerns, and requests, the requests remain the top reason why parents come or call the Welcome Center for information. That's about 89%, of all of the intakes. And we see that complaints, it's about around 6-7%, and concerns about 4 to 5%. So we can see the reason for the Welcome Center. Also, we see a trend that complaints are going down and more for information and services are going up, which I think is a good trend. And it shows that schools are responding well also to parents' complaints with our FCSSP staff in the school, and more options there.
Yeah, I would agree. I think calls or inquiries for services rather than the place is a good thing. To that extent, you mentioned earlier that it's sometimes a byproduct of what's happening in the community. I guess to that extent, is this information shared with other city agencies? For example, you mentioned you saw an uptick in, I believe, homelessness, right? Like, so as I look at it, like, that's not necessarily the schools to solve, right? We're part of the equation. I just want to make sure that trends like that is being communicated to a broader population that's actually able to help address some of these concerns or issues.
Yes, it's unintentionally shared with the city, because all of the families who come in that are under the McKinney-Vento Act, they have to register with the city for housing. They have to call the 211 line to do a CAN assessment application, which tells the city that these families are homeless and are put on the list. We also formed a little partnership with the Housing Authority, who we can refer families to directly for a Section 8 voucher. And that has been really helpful. But in terms of, communicating this to the city, it would be through the CAN assessment. The 211.
Yeah, so again, you guys are the experts on this. I guess my just general comment is, to the extent that we're seeing societal issues coming into the Welcome Center, to the extent that we're able to, and I know you guys do this already, but yeah, if we could create more formal structures of getting people the support and connecting them to the resources, and making people aware, I think it clearly not only helps the school, but also helps our community.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, just a clarifying question. Were you referring specifically to the homeless and displaced families, or overall, are you looking at the various pieces that are being brought forward? Because we do have formalized partnerships with many agencies to combat and assist with families who need oh my goodness, I can't think this morning, the essential kits, the hygiene kits. We have partnerships with agencies when we are looking to assist families in rent assistance and things like that do come to the Welcome Center. So I just wanted to make sure that I understood your question as it relates to just homelessness, or overall, all of the pieces that come in, because we do have some formal partnerships.
Yep, I would say it's overall, and what I would say is, to the extent that we're able to have partnerships for all those items, we should do that, right? So I clearly recognize that there's some partnerships. What I'm saying is, if there isn't a partnership, or let me backtrack, if there's a societal trend that we're seeing, and there isn't a formal partnership, to the extent that we're able to create one, I think we should.
Yes, I agree, and we are always looking for those openings to create partnerships. We actually, when parents come to the Welcome Center, if we don't have the answers, we look for it, and we look for it in the community. So we are experts at knowing where to send the parents. There are a lot of partnerships in our schools already existing. So so yes, I agree, and we try to do that as best as we can.
Yep. Board Member Johnston.
He had to hop off for another meeting. Just he put it in the chat, but I know you're in transit.
Okay, well, that is all the questions I have as it relates to that. I do, Christina, given the fact that I'm the only board member here, I'm not sure if it probably makes more sense to maybe table the 2 other reports to the next committee meeting.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. And I, of course, will be sharing the reports anyway with the full board and the community.
Okay. With that being said, are there any other questions or comments before we adjourn?
Yes, Christina and Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, what are the next steps? Are the ESH grants moving forward to a finance committee? Just wanted to know what's next.
That is correct. So the 2 contracts that we spoke about today will move to the finance committee, and then go through the regular process. As I mentioned before, just be very much prepared that there will be additional questions from my colleagues that were not able to attend today's committee meeting.
The regular meeting.
Got you. And just one more clarifying question. Is there a time frame to that? So if like finance committee, my understanding it's Monday. So if it's a finance question, is it that we'll receive that by tomorrow? Just trying to figure out so we can plan and be responsive to any questions that come in. So Christina, is there a time constraint to when board members are sending questions, or just whenever they come, respond in that manner?
I believe it's as they come. Our protocol, I know Chairman is at the finance it's focused on the financials for those contracts that have already been discussed in previous committees. But I believe you're also talking about at the regular meeting, just be open to questions. But I will also, as I always do, ask if you have any questions as you review, please send them in so that our staff can be prepared to answer.
Thank you.
So that's
helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, what I would say around that is, everyone here has done this long enough. There's going to be a question that comes up that is not captured in advance. To the degree that you're able to answer it, I think it's perfectly fine to go ahead and answer it. If you cannot answer it, you don't have the information, I think it's also perfectly fine to say, hey, I don't have that information, let me get back to you. What I would say is, like, let's not make things up, or which I know you guys don't do, but my statement is saying, my previous statement is saying there's going to be questions, and I don't know what they are. There's going to be questions at the regular meeting as it relates to those 2 contracts that will not show up here at this committee meeting and or at the finance committee meeting. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none. Before we adjourn, I do want to thank this team for all your hard work. You are very much appreciated, and to a certain degree, the front line, or at least the face of Hartford Public Schools to a lot of our stakeholders and parents and community partners. So thank you very much for all that you do, and it's not it does not go unnoticed. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.